Hello everyone, my name is Dinesh Mehta and welcome to Indie Acres Permaculture and Natural Farming channel. So this is the introductory video to the Permaculture Basics video series that I am creating. I'm pretty excited in doing this job now because as a permaculture person, my prime responsibility is not only to practice but also to educate and spread a word about permaculture. So let's get into it. First off, a little information about me. My name is Dinesh and I'm definitely not a one-man show, and that's my wife Monica. We have been married for close to 3 years now, and that's our little daughter Indy. She is 6 months old now. So we live in India in the suburbs of Hyderabad city, and that's in the southern part of the country. So for this video, I planned it in such a way that I'm going to cover 3 important aspects to give you guys a rough idea on what is permaculture, its applications, and how everything started for us, and what am I going through right now, our goals and objectives, and that's being the second part, and third, more importantly, the agenda of this Permaculture Basics series course. So some of you might be farmers looking for information on permaculture, and some of you might be those who heard about permaculture and wanted to learn more about it and implement it to benefit the underserved things on this planet. And some of you might be those working in the corporate environments and looking for ways to redesign their careers, or decided to live in a way they want and add self-reliance and resilience to their lifestyle. So whoever you may be or wherever you may live on this planet, I hope and believe that the information that I'll be sharing through this medium will be helpful. So without any delay, let's get into it. So I have originally started off my career in the finance industry, and I have been working in this line for close to 6 years now. And I can remember the very day working in this industry when I decided I had to quit and shift into something that is more meaningful. It's not that I hated my job or get underpaid. We were then living in a rural area. I don't have to travel long distances to get to my work. My job paid me enough to take care of myself and my family, had a health insurance, and a pretty good work-life balance. It's a typical corporate career that often made these doom and gloom sounds due to some dynamic inconsistencies in the global economy. So my duty basically as an analyst is to work for some offshore banking projects in which the decision maker or the employer sits somewhere in another country and makes these decisions. And now this decision maker's preferences change over time, and that creates inconsistencies in my livelihood. So to get this condition right and to reinforce our well-being, my wife Monica decided to take a job. She's an IT engineer basically, and she managed to get a job in a well-known organization in the city. So we moved into the city and she took the job and I am doing mine. And slowly, within a span of a month or two, we started to experience this change in our lives. Our physical health, which used to be good in the suburbs, now started to deteriorate in the city, mainly due to pollution, and overcrowded living conditions. And we never had this mental feeling of anxiety, depression, or the feeling of isolation and stress in a village environment. But this city life is mentally taxing to us. So this new urban life started to degenerate our physical and mental well-being. We have very little time to enjoy each other's company. It made us spend much of our time in traffics. It offered us unhygienic food, and what else are we left with? Money. Many of us might think urban living is associated with better employment and good economic prospects. Yes, that's true. But at what cost is the important question. Urban living provides access to employment, it provides access to education and access to better medicine. So it just provides access to these things, but I don't think it's the true source for everything. The real source, I strongly believe, is out there in the nature. Healthy food, clean air and water are the real source of good health, and you don't find them in cities. And the source for mental well-being is out there again in the nature, and not in the cities where you have millions of people around you, but you still feel lonely and depressed. So with one hand, this urban life fills your pockets, while with its other hand steals your hard-earned money from you in the name of this access to those so-called urban comforts. And yes, money is important. There is no discussion for that. Money can get you several things, but not everything. And in that gap of several things and everything, many important necessities such as clean water, clean air, good food, mental health, and social relations get stuck. And we don't want our children to get stuck in this vicious circle of unsustainable urban civilization. An important thing is here, I'm not advocating everyone living in cities to leave their jobs and go back to their villages. And the centerpiece of my argument is to give room for thought. So this incident, these experiences that we had for a couple of months really made us to rethink about our well-being. It made us rethink about our values. So we decided to go back to our former lives. We left the city and went back to the place where we have come from to restore our well-being. And now in this journey, two good things happened to us. I mean, this journey and the experiences we had with this urban living made us realize two things that brought radical changes to our lives. The first thing is that we realized and understood that the true source of our well-being is not money, and that's pretty straightforward. In fact, we moved to the city to empower ourselves economically, but that turned out to be a very bad decision, because money is necessary to an extent, but it's not the only thing that can keep us and our children comfortable, happy and healthy. And now the second thing is that all this time, from the time we were born to till date, we are trying to rewrite the answers or copy the answers that are established and predetermined by someone else in the society. For example, today, if you ask a typical teenager what he or she wanted to do in life, you will find that his or her responses are very limited. He would either say a doctor, an engineer, or some other profession, as if he or she had a very limited options at their disposal. So that's not the true answer. That's a copied answer. The true answer lies in what he or she values in their life. And by the time they realize the true things they value, they'll be stuck in a place where there is no turning back. And this realization motivated us to new thinking. It motivated us to reinvent the answers to the existing questions, rethink about our values, and if necessary, redesign our careers and livelihood. So in this process, we started looking for alternatives. We started reading and watching documentaries and stuff, particularly related to career alternatives that are far more sustainable and resilient. And so one day I came across this video in YouTube in my local language, Telugu. It's an introduction to permaculture video. And while I was watching this content, this guy, Dwarkanath Gyaneshwar, he's a permaculture consultant actually, he was talking about the state of the world, some important problems that human race is facing now, and how permaculture practices can solve the present day problems, and that really made sense actually. And from then I started reading more about this subject. I shared it with my wife. We slowly started to incorporate these principles of permaculture into our lives, and after considerable amount of experimentation and experience, we started to feel the difference. The amount of waste produced at our homes significantly reduced. We could save more money, and most importantly, our health improved many folds. And at that point, we realized, yes, this is what we wanted. This is how we can add resilience to our livelihoods and bring peace and happiness. So right from then, we started to learn more about permaculture, did our calculations to once again reassure ourselves that we are on the right track. And one thing that really attracted us towards permaculture is that, and we found it very interesting and reassuring, is that it's the ethical and philosophical basis on which this concept is built. These foundational principles, when applied carefully to our elements of design, could create permanent systems that are far more productive than the conventional ones. For example, let's take one simple system and see how the application of permaculture principles would make a difference. Now, let's see how we can create a permanent wastewater recycling system using these permaculture principles. Now, wastewater is a common resource that gets produced in our houses, in our homes. We can also call this wastewater as grey water. It's nothing but clean water being produced when you use this water for domestic purposes such as bathing, washing clothes, washing kitchen appliances, etc. So normally, if you see in any house, if you take a house, we produce this water. So when you take a bath, when you wash your clothes, or when you wash your appliances, so in all these activities we produce this grey water at our homes. Now this grey water is being sent from our homes through pipes to a public drainage system. So you will see the public drainage systems all around the city, all around your place, right? So now we are sending this effluent, this grey water, into this public drainage systems. Now it's not just a little water that is coming from our one house, right? So if it is just you or me living in a locality and letting this water into the drainage system, that's fine because it's very little water. But if you see, there are thousands of homes around us, there are millions and thousands of homes around us, and every home releases this water, and this water gets into the drains. And now if you see, this water is nutrient dense. It has got a lot of nutrient in it, right? So now normally what a government does is it allows all this nutrient dense wastewater to go and drain into some natural water bodies such as lakes and rivers. And now all this wastewater, when once released at a time into these natural water bodies, it causes pollution. It suddenly changes the chemical composition of the water in the lake, right? So it changes the pH and it affects the life of an ecosystem. So this lake or a river is an ecosystem. It's a natural ecosystem where there are many living things in this system, right? So when the chemical composition is changed and when the pH changes, it impacts the health of life in this natural water bodies. And it's not just that, right? There are many people living and being dependent on this water body, and they will start getting diseases, right? So which is not good thing to do. So this is how normally a conventional drainage system works in the cities. Now, to do this job and to get this job done, government spends a lot of money on this system. They'll spend a lot of money. Now, where is this money coming from? So all this money is being paid by us in the form of taxes. So from the taxes we pay, government allocates some fund to maintain these drainage systems, right? So you may think that, yeah, there is a lot of money being put in here and there is a lot of employment being generated, right? So there will be a lot of people working in this system to clean the drainage systems, right? But just imagine, do we really want the people whom we love or care to do this job? No, right? Someone else is doing this for us, right? So it's our culture letting them or forcing them to do these things. There are many good things in this world to learn and go ahead, right? So we don't want people to get into this. So in this system, there is a source, right? There is a source. The source is nothing but our homes, our utilities, right? So this gray water is generated at our homes. So we are the source. We are creating a source at our home. But if you see, the sink is somewhere away from our home. It is something natural. It's a natural body that is becoming a sink here, and we are destroying the ecosystem. So this is not a whole system, right? So conventionally, our drainage systems are not sustainable and resilient. So now let's look at the grey water management system that is created using permaculture principles. And now let's see how a grey water management system could be created using the permaculture principles. So let's take a home, and in this home, just imagine there's a lot of grey water is being generated. So people in this home are using water. So the used water, which we call it as grey water, so that is being generated, right? So this is the grey water. Now, instead of letting this water go for a waste, or instead of letting this water into some drainage systems, in a grey water management system backed by permaculture principles, we will try to reuse this water. We will try to first recycle this water and then reuse it, right? So how do we do it? So normally when this water comes out of the house, we will direct this water into a system. So this system is called a reed bed. It can be made of concrete. So a small rectangular system, right? So now we will let all this water into this reed bed. Now what is this reed bed? So this is called reed bed, R-E-E-D B-E-D. It's called reed bed. Sorry for my bad handwriting. So this reed bed, it's a concrete rectangular shaped tub, and in this we'll fill with gravel. gravel and stones of various measurements, right? So we will let all this water into this gravel bed, which is inside the reed bed. Now, and we also put some plants in it, some plants that live in water. I'm not going into details right now. I just want you to understand the differences and the system, right? So in this, we'll put some plants. These are the water loving plants. And there is a list out there. You can Google it. So this is a reed bed, and this is creating a strong base for these plants to hold. Right. So now when this water passes through the system, when it passes through this gravel, it gets filtered to some extent, right? So there are a lot of chemical constituents in this gray water. So this gravel tries to filter that water to some extent. So the left water is being used by these plants, right? So the plants need water, and it uses, and it will try to filter some other constituents. So after a certain period of time, and there will be a small tap or small connection, and you can let this water directly out, and you can use it in your garden to feed your trees, or your plants, right? So this is how we use it, right? So all this phenomenon, all this mechanism is happening at one place, right? It's just at your home. We are not letting this resource to get out of your home, right? So this is the source, and this is the sink. Your garden is the sink. So the place where you live is the source of this gray water, and your garden is a sink. So this is a whole system. If you see, this is a whole system. It's a whole circle. So now you're first recycling it and then reusing it. So there is, in this process, there is no waste that is being generated, and there is no loss, and you don't have to put a lot of money in this system, and you don't need externally you don't need any other people and management to come and take care of your waste. So we are responsible for the waste we generate in the system. So this is how a permaculture based system works, right? So now let's look at the principles of permaculture and see what are all the principles that we try to incorporate in this system. So here we have the core of permaculture. That infographic that you see on the right hand side of your screen, these 12 principles and 3 ethics are the driving force of permaculture. Now let's try to recollect the permaculture reed bed system that we have seen and try to apply some of these principles to it. So principle number 1, produce no waste. So if you see in this reed bed system, we have wastewater coming from home, and we have not let it go for a waste. Generally, waste by definition is an unwanted substance produced after primary use. But in this reed bed system, we captured it, we recycled it and reused it in our gardens. So there is no question of waste here. In fact, all natural systems works in this way. They don't produce waste. Have you ever seen waste being generated in a forest? No. All the fallen trees and all the litter and tree waste gets recycled and reused by the forest itself. Similarly, systems designed by permaculture never produces any waste. And now let's look at another principle. Use and value renewables. Now, water can be a renewable resource when recycled carefully. We can treat it and store it or just waste it away. So this principle advocates to respect and value these kind of resources, because When used disrespectfully, these kind of resources could become scarce. And we all know that we have water scarcity in our world. So in this reed bed system, we are trying to recycle it and use it wisely. So if you observe closely, we can find each and every single one of these 12 principles being applied in creating this grey water reed bed system. I don't want to go into details of all the principles now. However, I will go into detailed explanations on each of these principles in my upcoming sessions. So this is just to help you understand how permaculture works. So now, by incorporating all these 12 principles, we can create systems that in turn serve the 3 ethics of permaculture. So we have 3 ethics in permaculture: care for earth, care for people, and fair share. So in this reed bed example, by not letting this wastewater run into nature, we are caring the earth. We are caring our natural world. And by solving this grey water problem at the source, that is at our homes, we are not allowing the underprivileged people in the society to get into these menial jobs. As I mentioned earlier, do we really want our loved ones to take these menial jobs? No, right? So by taking care of our own waste, we are channeling our tax money, and now the governments can use this surplus money for the welfare of underprivileged masses of the society. And those who otherwise had to take these menial jobs can now learn more meaningful things and just go up the ladder, right? So this is the most progressive way of thinking. And thirdly, the fair share. If you are producing too much volume of wastewater, you can recycle it through this system and share that resource with your neighbors, right? If you have too much volume of this water, and if you think that it's too much for your garden, you can let your neighbors use it, right? You can help your neighbors to feed their gardens. That's called fair share. So in fact, the myth of scarcity that we now had in our society is due to our unsustainable consumptive patterns. Nature is always abundant. Just imagine a healthy mango tree. How many fruits do you think it will produce? Have you ever seen a healthy mango tree producing just 2 or 3 mangoes? No. It produces hundreds and thousands of them to continue the existence of its species. In fact, all natural systems that we have on this planet are abundant in nature. It's only us, the humans, due to our unsustainable consumptive patterns, resort to this mindset of scarcity. But permaculture breaks this myth of scarcity and helps us cultivate the mindset of abundance. In fact, all permaculture systems are abundant because it tries to mimic the nature and reduce the ecological footprint. And for some of you, it may be difficult to understand few terms that I have been using here, but not to worry, I will explain you one by one in the upcoming sessions in detail, right? So this is what made us look for a career change, to take a new path. And we have seen and experienced a lot of potential in this subject. And now, practically speaking, where can we apply this knowledge? Just to grow plants and crops? No, not at all. So for a conventional eye, permaculture may appear to be a farming technique or something that is used in agriculture. But that's not completely true. Permaculture is a design science that can be applied to all human actions. It just doesn't teach you how to plant a mango tree. It teaches you why, where, when, and how to plant it. Permaculture is not just a technique, it's a way of life. If you look at the word permaculture and break it, we have two words in it, right? It's a combination of two words, perma meaning permanent, and the culture meaning the way humans live. Now if you combine it, it says a permanent way of human life. A permanent way of life can only happen when it is self-regulating, self-sustainable, and resilient. And those 12 principles and 3 ethics are the guiding factors to permaculture, are the guiding factors to permanence. So that's a little about permaculture and how we managed to get hold of it. So now let's look at the second aspect of this video. Now, before talking about our goals in this line of work, I want to introduce you to the founders of permaculture. Permaculture was founded in 1970s by two persons, Bill Mollison and David Holmgren in Australia. We call Bill Mollison as the father of permaculture, and for his work he was awarded this prestigious award, the Right Livelihood Award in Australia. He wrote few books on permaculture and then started teaching permaculture. So then he designed this course on permaculture. It's called PDC, Permaculture Design Certificate course, which is a 72-hour course. There are no prerequisites to take this course. You don't need a bachelor degree or any other qualification for that matter. And this qualification not only gives you the intellectual knowledge to practice permaculture, but also gives you the right to teach and spread a word about permaculture. So initially, when Bill Mollison conducted this course, hundreds of interested people from all over the world took this course, and those qualified people went back to their countries and started practicing it. And while practicing it, they also conducted these PDCs, and in this way permaculture crossed the boundaries and attracted thousands of people all around the world. So for us, in this few months of journey with permaculture, of lately we have observed one thing, that most of the information on permaculture that is available online and via other resources is predominantly based on most of Australia, Americas, and some other developed nations. There are projects being carried out in few other countries and in some parts of Middle East and Africa, but a very little work is being carried out in India. And now, though the principles and ethics of permaculture is universal and applicable in any part of this world, the results or the outcome of any specific project cannot be reproduced. I mean, for example, the results in terms of yield and utility that you get on a permaculture site in United States may not be similar or may not be achieved on a permaculture site in India. And the reason for that is that the outcome, the results in terms of yield, productivity or utility very much depends on various independent geobiological factors of a particular permaculture site. Because every piece of land that we have on this planet is unique and presents us with a different set of conditions. Take India for example. In India, India experiences a variety of climates. There is a lot of diversity in our climate. We have this cold, cloudy, temperate climate in the northern part of the country, and we experience warm, humid, tropical climate in some parts, and we have this mixed, moderate, and hot, arid, dry climate in some parts of the country. So each of these climatic conditions presents us with diverse conditions and elements. So we have this diversity in soils, we have diversity in topography, water availability, and we have this diversity in plant and animal species. So all in all, the success of any permaculture design heavily depends on our choice of these elements. You may see a particular strategy or element that does very well in one part of the world, and it may not do so well in other parts or other places. For example, in the climate where I live now, that is in hot and dry arid climate, we have this guinea fowl that does very well in our climate. And now, if I take this guinea fowl to a place where the climate is cold and temperate, that poor animal may not do very well and it may suffer. So that's the significance of diverse conditions, and it's very important to select the right species or right elements, because it's only when you pick a right element you can create a whole system that is self-regulating, resilient, and mutually beneficial. So the point is, the experience and results that is available today is not a universal solution. We need more people in this line of work in our country, working and experimenting in diverse locations and sharing their results and experiences with their local communities, so that the latter would benefit and in turn spread and share this knowledge with others. So the main aim of any permaculture practitioner is not only to create systems that are ecologically sound and economically viable, but also to discuss and promote the use of permaculture. And now, talking about the penetration of permaculture in India, initially I found it strange to see permaculture not spreading so fast in agriculture-based nations like India, where more than 50% of the population is dependent on agriculture, and we still have farmers and growers struggling to make their ends meet. So the main reasons I think could be one, the lack of sustainable agricultural policy from the governments, and two is the lack of enough organizations that promote practices like permaculture. It's not that we don't have any permaculture practitioners in India. We have several individuals working independently and in communities, but the problem still persists. So just think, when we humans had to deal with big things or big problems, do we do it as individuals or through organizations? You know that we don't. You know that we don't. Do we fight wars individually? No. You fight it through an army. Do we educate our children individually? No. We do it at schools, colleges, and universities. Do we govern our nations individually? No. We need governments to govern us. So we form these organizations because they are an efficient way of getting things done. They are essential for our civilization to solve our problems. So in countries like India, Bangladesh, and others where population is too much, and poverty is a problem, we need organizations to solve our problems. We need more and more organizations that could spread permaculture. So as an individual, you could only reach only hundreds of people in your lifetime, but organizations could reach millions and bring that change in the society. So we at IndieAcres strongly believe that we need more and more organizations in this country that spread this knowledge, and IndieAcres is going to be one of them. So our main objectives are to be a not-for-profit permaculture organization that practices this permanent way of life, and to train interested people in skills needed for a self-reliant lifestyle, and to provide permanent access to plentiful nutritious food to the local people. So these are our motives, and there is no question of ownership here. We may die and cease to exist one day, but this organization continues and will continue to serve and spread this knowledge of permaculture. So in this journey, all we want to do is to be little squirrels and contribute our part in building this great big permaculture bridge. So that's little about our goals and objectives. Now let's move to the third aspect of this video. Now, if you remember, I have mentioned two important aspects in permaculture. One is, permaculture is not about some technique. It's the core. It's a design science that serves as a foundation on which we need to build structures using our creativity and resources. So the core of permaculture is nothing but these 12 principles and 3 ethics. So anything and everything that complies with these core principles and ethics is permaculture. Here I would like to use the analogy of architecture, because there is a great similarity. Now, if you think of architecture, any building or a structure needs a strong foundation. Now these 12 principles and 3 ethics of permaculture is just like a foundation of a building. And on this foundation, you can build whatever you need. You can build either a house or an office or anything that you wish for. But it only will stand strong if you had a strong foundation. Similarly, to build any permaculture system, you need a strong foundation, and your expertise in laying that foundation depends on your level and degree of understanding these permaculture principles and ethics. And now the second aspect is, any person, irrespective of his or her line of work, age, sex, and other factors, could practice and become a permaculture person. You may be a teacher, you may be a corporate person, you may be a doctor or a farmer. Your success in your line of work depends on your level and degree of understanding your subject. For a doctor, medicine is the basic foundation. For a farmer, plants, animals, and soil will be the foundation. A doctor without proper understanding of medicine cannot do well. Similarly, a farmer without understanding soils, plants, and animals cannot grow his food. Similarly, a permaculture practitioner without understanding these permaculture principles and ethics cannot do very well. Now these 12 principles and 3 ethics of permaculture is not some rocket science. This is not something newly invented by some scientists. These are found everywhere in the nature and society. These are handpicked from various disciplines ranging from physical and biological sciences to social and psychological sciences. So any person from any discipline can easily understand this way of life. So for now, our agenda in doing this Permaculture Basics course is to help you understand these basics. Some of you might think that just by doing a PDC or by doing a permaculture workshop, you can succeed in permaculture. And that's not completely true, because permaculture teaches you the basics. It helps you pass the examination, but it's your responsibility to apply this knowledge creatively and succeed, and then further share your knowledge and experience with others. And there is no doubt we and any permaculture teacher anywhere in the world will always be available to offer help when needed. Just imagine, after completing our graduation, and if we could not manage to get good jobs, how many of us went back to our colleges and questioned our teachers? We never did that, right? But it's different with permaculture. When you have problems with the permaculture, and our teachers will always be ready to offer guidance and help for free of charge. We don't have financial motives here. So our agenda for now is to help you understand various subjects and concepts that led to the evolution of permaculture in detail. So in this process, we will also share the reading material and other resources free of cost for your personal references. And now, when it comes to delivery, we'll be primarily using the YouTube and Facebook mediums to deliver the content, and we'll be posting at least one video every weekend. And we have designed this course in such a way that we will start with simple concepts and then gradually build up and move up the ladder, and whenever necessary we will go to the field and demonstrate few things for your understanding. And for these demonstrations we have borrowed a little plot where we'll be conducting experimentations to serve the purpose, and we have also been planning to purchase a larger property to serve our future goals. So by the end of this course, you will be equipped intellectually to start your journey with permaculture. Our present efforts are to make you ready for the upcoming bigger picture, that's for a career in permaculture. So that's it for this video. We hope that we have managed to introduce you to permaculture a bit and to our objectives and our agenda in creating this Permaculture Basics series. So in the next video, in the next session, we'll be starting with the first topic, the true source of human well-being. And if you have anything to ask or thoughts to share with the community, please feel free to post them in the comment section. And you can also suggest me or suggest us the improvements, if any, in the delivery of this content. Definitely I'm not great in doing this thing right now. I'm still working on my editing skills. So please suggest me if I have to make any changes so that I can do a better job in sharing this knowledge with you all. And you can also write to me at indiacres19@gmail.com, and you can also contact us on Facebook. I'll be leaving the description for the Facebook below in the description box. So thank you for staying tuned, and I'm Dinesh and you're watching Indie Acres.